My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today I'm here with the lovely Barbara With. Barbara With is an international peace activist, award-winning author and publisher, a psychic channel, a composer and a performer, and the co-founder of Conflict Resolution, the world peace one person at a time, starting with self, a revolutionary way to resolve conflicts of the psyche as a pathway to world peace based on her work channeling the angels and Albert Einstein. Oh, I love this so much. She has authored 6 non-fiction books on metaphysics and teaches and trains conflict resolution in the classroom and on Zoom. She is currently on a world peace tour, calling out to the participants of the willing and for a worldwide non-violent action to end the age of war, starting with self. She is traveling the world, training conflict resolution and presenting her Einstein unified field theory. Oh my goodness, why couldn't I get that out? And maps of human consciousness and the science of compassion. So a big welcome to the show, Barbara, and I'm so excited to unpack this with you.
Oh, thank you for having me, Catherine. I just love chatting about this. It's so great.
You have such an accomplished career, and just in so many different fields of creativity. I absolutely love that. Has there been something that's been your favorite, or has it just evolved kind of over time as you've gone through this journey that you've been on?
Oh, gosh, I just turned 70 this year, and I have a long lifetime of preparing for being here. So, sometimes you look back on your life and you think about those times that were so hard and you thought you were just totally off track. And then you get to this age and you look back and go, oh my gosh, that was absolutely the training that I needed to be where I am today. So I can't say, but I started out as a musician and a composer. And I started writing music very young when I was 12. And then when I got out of high school, I just went on the road. I wanted to be a rock star. And that was my whole focus. So that was a really, I love those years where I actually was I was world famous, in my mind, but I was traveling and singing. And then switching over to how it kind of moved me into channeling and then getting into the angels and getting into Einstein. That is such a remarkable story that's truly one of my favorite parts of the whole story.
Oh, please share. But also, now you've picked it.
Okay. Well, I had been going to a psychic in high school. My friend's mom was a psychic, and she gave us readings. And it was all about self-love. I mean, she did predictions. She talked about my music was going to be worldwide, and it was this healing music. And so I knew what channeling was. And certainly writing songs was a form of channeling. You go into the nothing and listen. And so when I started kind of one day spontaneously automatic writing, I knew because I was writing a letter, I was very angry at someone, and suddenly my hand sort of became independent and started typing these beautiful ideas instead of, I was telling her how bad it is to be judgmental. There you go. There's somebody who needs conflict revolution. And suddenly I was typing, yes, because when you make judgments, you close your vision down so you only see a tiny little picture of the whole scene. So open up. And that was not what I was going to say. But knowing what it was, I kept pursuing it. I said, who are you? And they said, we are sound.
Magic.
And at the time, yeah, magic. And I'd been writing songs since I was 12. Sound great. I'm with that. So I started doing that as a channel. I eventually started speaking, and then in 1993, I thought, what would these voices say to a bunch of people, a group of people? Because people would come, they'd have a reading, they'd get their cassette, and they'd leave, and we never talked about it. So I thought, well, let's do a group, and I couldn't find anybody in my regular circle. And then one day, a woman named Teresa showed up at my door for a reading. And then she sent 6 of her best girlfriends, and then she sent her best friend, Kim. And Kim and Teresa and I, long story short, we became and are still today the Psychic Sorority. And we started conducting groups in our living rooms. And December 14th, 1993 was the first group we did. And all of that is documented in Diaries of a Psychic Sorority. So the whole thing is there. But when they asked, who are you? The voices said, you can call us angels. And I said to myself and them, angels? What? My mentor taught me I was an antenna. Like, I'm picking up all your information and just talking it back to your mind. And suddenly there's these angels. So we had a talk about it and decided we really didn't care if it was the Easter Bunny, because what they were telling us was changing our lives so dramatically and so positively that we were addicted to doing this. So what the angels told us in the nutshell was they had this theoretical process to resolve conflict first within ourselves in a particular way, that then the byproduct would be world peace. So they needed 3 human beings who were going to have real life conflicts to test their theory. And I guess we volunteered and were chosen. And that was our mission that has led us to where we are today on my World Peace Tour.
Wow. I have goosebumps. There's such a powerful and magical story of how that evolved. And it's so funny because a guest I interviewed earlier today, her history was as in the Marine Corps, and she's actually working on peace too. I actually feel like I need to connect you two people. But the magic thing, what she said she came to this decision in her life and she had to choose between the Marine Corps and the Peace Corps, and she actually chose the Marines. And the reason she went down that path, and she realizes now, is because if she hadn't experienced war at that full capacity, she wouldn't be able to hold the energy for peace. Just like you said, if you hadn't been in that conflict and been given that message from the angels and going to try it out on yourselves, then you wouldn't know it's actually going to work at that bigger level, right? Because it is that ripple effect that comes out, that when you change and make that active change in you, then you can ripple it out and cause changes in the world scale level.
Yeah, and I think people often think about, you look globally, right? Because we look outside ourselves and we see this chaotic world. But that distracts us from the very basic thing that you know and I know and everybody knows in our heads, as within, so without. But to demonstrate that, to live that is such a huge challenge. And we can't just know it and understand it. How do we put it in our bodies? And that's what Conflict Revolution does.
Yeah. Yeah. And fully embodies it in, and a lot of people don't realize just talking about it's not enough. You have to put it into action, and then actually to have that feeling and embodiment, it just helps your subconscious actually grasp onto that changes that are happening at that cellular level.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm still getting goosebumps. So
We'll buckle up.
We'll buckle up. So you're currently on a world peace tour, which I love that. So what is kind of the Psychic Sorority, and what are you guys doing to bring this message out into the world?
Well, the Psychic Sorority's job for all of these 32 years has been to maintain the practice of conflict resolution amongst the 3 of us. And so the 3 of us have, through 32 years, been through a wide variety of conflicts that we have been challenged to bring ourselves back together. We do it every single time we'll come back together. Then there'll be Kim and Teresa will have a distance to work out their conflict. Teresa and I will have a distance, but we always come back together. I went on after the psychics, after we published diaries. I went on to then I had a literary agent who got me. She said she got a call from a tabloid in London, like a metaphysical tabloid, Jesus on the toast and angels in the backyard. And they were looking for an interview with Princess Diana on the 1-year anniversary of her death. And that was another moment in my life where I went, what? I mean, I'd learned I could communicate with people who had passed on, but they always came to me. Like I would see them and they'd say, here's a message for my son. So I was like, how do we do this? And it took me a long time to decide that this was legit. And I thought, well, let's just see. So I sat down and I typed the channeling, the questions and the answers, printed it off. And when I read it, I just wept. You could hear her voice. And aside from all of the details of Dodie and her children, her message was, if everyone who put flowers in front of the palace when I died did conflict revolution, we'd have world peace in a day. Mm-hmm. And so in my conversation in my head with her after I'd done it, and now I knew it was her, I said, Diana, this is brilliant. So you've got this tabloid that has 40 million people, and you can put your interview and tell them to do this. I mean, what a reach you can have from beyond the grave. And needless to say, the tabloid didn't want it because she didn't mention Camilla or Charles once. Of course, she wouldn't have. But so my agent and I sat down and said, well, maybe there's more famous people who want to talk. So we made a list, and some people did. Some people didn't. Elvis didn't. JFK did. And there came a point, it was actually JFK, and that was an amazing interview too, that now is being substantiated by what's coming out here in the US with the release of the documents. Yeah. It's all being substantiated.
You're like, oh, finally.
He said, yeah. Well, we knew, he told us back then, but we had to wait for culture to catch up. But he said, first of all, this is not your idea. We are a party who have been working in afterlife with you for world peace. And I was like, okay, so they weren't angels? They're like, no, the angels are there. But we couldn't come out and say, hey, it's Albert Einstein and JFK. And, you would have freaked out as a human being. You wouldn't have believed us. So we had to ease you into it. And we didn't even have Einstein on the list. How sad is it? And that's why they were all like, I'm sure they were in afterlife going, they don't even have you on the list, Albert. Hold on a second. So when I finally channeled Einstein, I vocally said it. It was the voice of every single reading I'd ever given.
Wow.
It was the voice of sound. And my body knew in a minute the sound of the voice from within me, the voice Albert Einstein. So that was very much a shock to me. It took me a while, like several years. It took me a while to say I was channeling angels. Okay, so now I'm channeling Albert Einstein and JFK. That's cool. But it was so brilliant. And what made me come out of the closet was 9/11. Because I had this whole book of channel interviews with world leaders telling us how to have peace. And I'm afraid that people are going to think I'm crazy, but this information is so brilliant. So that's when I really came out of the closet. I was still kind of like, well, I'm not trying to convince you it's them, rather than this is Albert Einstein. So in 2005, it was the 100-year anniversary of E = MC squared, his miracle year. And I thought, let's just do a little book for him alone. Let's see what he'd have to say. I had no idea. No, I didn't anticipate anything. I thought, let's see. So long story short, he delivered a unified field theory, which in science means scientists for years have been finding a theory that operates on the microcosm like it does on the macrocosm. So stuff on the little tiny quantum field seems to have different formulas than the planetary. So
Yeah.
he comes in, he delivers a unified field theory, and it includes what he calls the map of human consciousness, which is how our consciousness interacts with that unified field to create reality.
Yeah.
But the most stunning, and I think still today, is his scientific quantifiable definition of compassion, capital C, as the first fundamental force of the universe. It's the creative intelligence field that uses the other four fundamental forces to impel the creation of the universe one step at a time.
Yeah.
And that was that book, Imagining Einstein, Essays on M-Theory, World Peace, and the Science of Compassion, is the one that got me jettisoned around the world, teaching and training conflict revolution, which I'd been training formally since 1999, and channeling Einstein. And it really came out of the closet back then. And it's very profound.
I love this, and when you were just sharing all that and how the past world leaders came together with the angels to bring this concept, well, not even a concept because you're teaching it, this I don't even know how to describe it, this method. It's just so,
Yeah, method,
yeah, yeah,
inspiration, portrait. Yeah.
yeah, together. But I just heard straight away, it's like you have to learn from the past, and, because so often we say history keeps repeating itself because you don't actually learn from it. And as even in the human being state, in order for your soul to grow, you need to learn from the past. And here are these past leaders saying, hey, this is what did work and this is what didn't work. We put together basically a formula for you. And if you just adapt it and work on yourself, it will have that ripple effect out, and I find as a human that is so comforting that you just have to do the work on yourself and it will help at a global level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people underestimate that. We get into our struggles, and God knows I've used conflict revolution to save my own life. And you're so deep into it, and you don't have an awareness, and maybe you don't need to at that moment, but it kind of helps to know as you're struggling through things going, okay, if I keep doing this, I am contributing to global peace. This is my corner of peace. And you don't have to worry about your neighbor or anybody else or the government, the rest of us who have also been assigned the tasks of going after what's happening now. We are being divinely guided, but every individual just has to go within and find that peace.
Exactly. There's so beautifully said. That's what I wanted to say. I can't find my words today. This is so weird.
You're filled up. The party's overwhelming you.
I feel it is. I couldn't even say quantified, unified field. See, I still can't say it. See, something's weird going on today.
It's way big energy.
It's way big. It is big energy. And if anyone's listening to this or watching this after we've recorded this, you'll understand because you can just feel it's like, oh my gosh, this is the key. This is, because so many people wish for world peace, but no one actually knows the steps to actually get there, right? And you're now going around the world saying, here's the formula, work on yourself. And I guess that itself can be hard for people to think about because often people don't want to look in the mirror and look at themselves and do the work too. So it's like, but for me, from a healing point of view too, one of my big motivators was if I heal this stuff with me and do all the healing work, it's going to shift it for my son and for his children and for, generations past and generations future. So why is it such a big extension then to think, well, if I do all the work now for me, how is that not going to impact the world at a global level too?
Exactly. And Kim and Teresa came to this mission because of their children. They were best friends. They met in Lamaze class. Their daughters became best friends. And so they were saying, I was looking at this precious baby thinking, what a miracle it is. And then their next thought was, I'm going to teach her to be a doormat, because that's how they were. It's like, we're not going to do that. So, and what's a beautiful part about this too, if we can just shift a little, I want to say that at the pinnacle of my success after all this, traveling the world, I came home to Madison, Wisconsin in February 2011. And Spirit put me there because I was there at it was the uprising in the United States. I don't know, Occupy movement went all around the world, but it started in Madison, Wisconsin in February 2011. And that was when I totally left that path that was my mission, because I had been put in this place to report on what was happening on the ground in my state. So I became an investigative reporter. I started a media cooperative. And so from 2011, probably until about 2023, I have actively been a water protector. I've been an investigative journalist. I've been investigating what propaganda does to the human psyche.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that, think about conflict revolution. Basically, I'll give you the basics, really down and dirty. 3 human dimensions: emotion, solar plexus; intuition, heart; intellect, head. And if we're aligned to compassion, energy is flowing through us and capturing all of our emotion, right? All of it, not just some of it, not just the good stuff, moving up into our heart to inform our intuition. And between the head, the intellect, and the intuition is where every conflict in the world begins. Because intuition is the voice of God telling you the next most advantageous step for the good of the whole situation, starting with you. And the intellect can say no to intuition. It's been given the ego control. So if you're going to turn right and you put your hand to turn the wheel, it's not the intuition that impels that action. It's the intellect. So we've all done this, right? Intuition says, rest. And intellect says, I can't rest. I've got to do 100 things. And then you go do 100 things. And suddenly you're in conflicts with people and you're tired and you're getting sick. So that's a basic. That is propaganda. This is the original internal propaganda. So all of these years I've been teaching conflict revolution. Now I get to, I'm sure it's the same in Australia. I mean, the whole world has just been flooded with this propaganda. And how are we going to get our way out of that external propaganda?
Yeah.
So I have recently been called back into service, parallel with my World Peace Tour and in conjunction with, to help my friends who everybody has had this experience where suddenly people aren't talking to you and they're thinking, it doesn't matter what ideology you believe. It's just people acting that like they're out of their minds. And I have that code. So I'm working very feverishly. I have a Substack also, Barbara With, if you want to follow that work I'm doing to educate on how it all happened and then bring conflict revolution into it to free us from that external propaganda. But of course, we all know it begins within. So that's the good news.
Yeah. And I guess it's that with anything with propaganda, I find the best way to get out of it is being curious and start to ask questions, right? Like, hang on, why am I thinking that? Why is that thought there? And then why do I feel that? And working back down to that intuition so that you can pull apart everything that's on top of that and then see what's left. And often what's left is your intuition, right? Because you've actually pulled back all the layers, and then you can make that next step forward and see what's next.
And I think the hardest thing about alignment, like you're talking about, it's exactly it, is that our intellects are so powerful because they are, if you just take away like the propaganda or this or that, just in how we function, the emotion is actually kind of the primordial quantum soup that underlies all physical reality. So the angels used to say, yeah, your chair has emotion. I mean, be like, what? It does. Everything's made up of that. It comes through your intuition that knows the plan perfectly. And on a subatomic level, intuition is impelling your heart to beat, right? So it's always an impelling statement. It's not we're going to figure it out, or it's beat, heart, beat. But then it's telling you, turn left, rest. And then it gets to the intellect. And this is the war, because we're supposed to be defining like that is a chair, that is a chair, that is a chair. That's part of the intellect's job in the whole picture. But then ego gets in there to make, oh, well, he did this to me, and so therefore he has to. So making this, quieting down, being in present moment, and then always listening for the divine feminine intuition impelling you to take a step, and then divine masculine being in service to the divine feminine to actually be willing to use your free will to make that step. That is such an important part of our operating system.
And free will is such an important thing for people to remember. Like, you always have a choice. Always, always. And God, divine, spirit, whatever word resonates with someone listening. But, we've been designed that way, that we always have freedom of choice no matter what. You can choose to evolve. You can choose to stay where you are. You can choose to be inquiry. You can choose to have compassion. Everything you do has a choice, and every choice you make has that ripple effect out into the world and into the universe, because it just keeps rippling. And I feel like so often we forget that magic of the power that we actually have as human beings to make a choice to improve our lives and even those around us as well.
Absolutely. And the other thing about it is that every choice we make, it's like a mathematical formula. Okay, so if I turn right, this series of events will happen. If I turn left, and that compiles, we call it, at our root, Einstein says, we are a compilation, like a particle. He calls it a compilation of consciousness. So every decision we make is recorded and stored, and that's sort of how we have this karma, right? We come back, we have all of this recorded information that, if I killed somebody, then I've got to be killed if I'm going to have that balance. So this is how we also transcend our karma.
Yeah, which is such a beautiful way to look at it too. And I've never heard it explained that way, but it was perfect. I love it, Barbara. Obviously,
well,
Albert Einstein knows what he's talking about.
It does, but I think you've been reading the Conflict Revolution workbook, because you were pretty much quoting when you always have a choice. I'm gonna send you a copy of it. You're gonna see how you were basically quoting the end of it. No matter what, you always have a choice.
You do. Well, it's funny because I've written a book. By the time this comes out, it will be out. But it's based on spiritual ethics, and that is the number one thing, is divine will and freedom of choice. That's the very first thing it teaches. So that's why I haven't even read your things, but obviously we're all here as light workers in some capacity. So whatever you want to label yourself as, but we're all getting very similar messages, because it's so important and it's so needed for humanity right now, because we are on this cusp. We've entered this Aquarian age, which everyone's like, what is this they're talking about? This is where systems fall and new systems can be built. And that's what needs to happen. There needs to be that shift from the patriarch to the matriarch, where we start to step back into the power of ourselves as humans and as our own soul beings as well.
And I think a couple things is, it isn't even stepping back into the matriarch. It's bringing the divine balance of the Trinity within us. So you've got the divine feminine in your intuition, the divine masculine, and then you've got the power of consciousness. Your connection, your direct connection to God is in your emotion. So when we bring that Trinity into alignment, and I think people should also understand, people are very frightened right now, all over the world. People are like, there's going to be and believe me, as an investigative reporter, I scour Twitter every day for information, just to pick up information, what's going on all around the world. And people are worried. I'm saying this is like a chrysalis. The caterpillar pulls everything around, and as the caterpillar starts to dissolve, the butterfly starts to emerge. And Einstein has said over and over, this is not a big crash. This is coming down while this is coming up. And those of us, I like to call us compassionaries, because that is the bottom line. It doesn't have to do with any, a light worker, or that you've got, Hindu compassionaries, you've got Catholic compassionaries, anybody who is committed to compassion. And we are the glue, the fluid that is bringing that butterfly into form. And if we keep on revolving and resolving our inner conflicts and holding that compassion and that vision, Einstein says, has always told us, the angels from the beginning, this vision has already been manifest. World peace has already broken out. Systems are changing. And so we have to know that, because, I mean, if you just basic intention 101, if I have an intention to create something, the end product has to be that thing created.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting times.
Yeah, there also has to be that destruction to get there. And a lot of people forget that. Like, things have to fall down and be destroyed, because energy is never gone. It always gets, created into something new. So you have to have that destruction to have that creation, and that's, I feel, what we've been going through, is just watching all these things start to tumble down and shift and change. And more people are stepping into their power. More and more people, like you said, are working with from the compassion point of view. They're like really coming from their heart and becoming heart-led leaders. And that is what we need in this world. People who are leading from the heart rather than the ego and the mind.
And I can tell you, after doing this for, near a half a century, back then, all these ideas, I would say 20% of anybody I had in a conflict resolution workshop would hold this ideal. And the rest of probably 40% were like, well, that's kind of interesting, and then another 20% were like, that's just hogwash. 100% now.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. And I know, especially for younger people, you don't have that longer view, but I'm here to tell you, we're doing it.
Yeah, which is beautiful. It's beautiful. Well, thank you, Barbara. Thank you for leading the charge. I have to say, I'm going to say it.
Well, you are welcome. My pleasure. A lot of people have been thanking me lately on all sides of the aisle. So
exactly. And as we start to finish up our time together, I feel like I already know your answer. If you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
I've told you the answer, but I also want to say I would heal people's disbelief. I would heal people, not skepticism. Skepticism is absolutely necessary because truth will withstand the skepticism. But it's the ability to be childlike in vision and dream. Because I want to tell you, on July 8th, 2025, I will be presenting at the Science of Consciousness Conference in Barcelona, Spain, to all of the world's top physicists, scientists who have been studying the nature of consciousness. And I'm going to be delivering a message from Albert Einstein from beyond the grave on the 70th anniversary of his last manifesto that was read July 9th, 1955 in London. He died. And the basic message was, world leaders must find peaceful ways to resolve conflict because no one will survive World War III. Now, I want to find a statistician or a mathematician who can tell me what are the odds that I would be chosen for almost the exact day, 70th anniversary, on my 70th birthday, that I will be finally, after all of these years of being told I was going to do this, deliver this message to the scientists. And there's going to be such a revolutionary shift that starts within each of them that I'm thinking I might be able to just retire.
It should be beautiful.
Well, that's a joke, but
no, it's so funny you say that, because my homeopath is this beautiful 82-year-old lady, and she said to me, and she's so strong because she does like Bowen and all these other things as well, but she's so strong. And she said to me, she looks at her hands and she said, when these hands tell me that the work is done, then I'll know I'm done. But until that day, I'm going to keep working and I'm going to keep serving at this level. And I feel that's the same for you, Barbara, right? Like, until you feel it's done, you're going to keep serving.
Well, and I also feel in my life that I've had this service that I've I've sacrificed everything in my life for. I've lost everything in my life and come back to be this person, singularity. And that there will come a time where retirement for me will be jetting around the world, talking and singing. And that will be my ideal retirement. And the rest of the world will be already on its way. And what a beautiful time.
What a beautiful time. I love that so much. And if people want to follow your journey or follow you, Barbara, where can they find you?
Please, barbarawith.com. I've got a couple things. One is I'd like to offer you and any of your listeners, I call it a half price reading, but if you go to barbarawith.com under readings and buy a half-hour reading, I will give you a full hour because I love to spread this word. Also, I have a conflict revolution challenge that I am putting forth to the participation of the willing. It's 2 free downloads. One, how to do conflict revolution. And the second is a 12-week journal that challenges you every week to walk through conflict revolution. You learn a different piece every week about the intellect or the intuition, and you get to document the kind of instant miraculous changes that happen on this local level when you do that. So everybody take the challenge, bring those miracles to your life. If you're already like you, Catherine, this is just, this, it's just going to organize it in this little way that's going to change your perception like this. And it's going to be like, okay, woo, here we go. So everybody go do that and be a part of this revolution.
Yeah, so beautiful. And what is your Substack as well, so people can follow you on Substack?
It's Barbara With. Yeah, you want to go there because that's really Einsteinian led too. Going back to the beginning of the conversation, the Party of 12. Yeah, they are here working again with world leaders. So
I love this so much. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey, Barbara, and for doing this work. And I'm just been so honored to interview you because I can just feel how passionate you are about getting this message out to the world and changing it for the better. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.